प्रधाने वन्दना करे सबर चरणा नीलाचलवासी जत महाप्रभुर गणा भूमिते पड़िया बंदो सबर चरणा नवद्वीपवासी जत महाप्रभुर भक्त सबर चरण बंदो होया अनुरक्त महाप्रभु भक्त जत घोर देश स्थिति सबर चरण बंदो करिया प्रणाति जदशे बसे कुरंगेरा गाना दुर्बाहु करी बंदो सबर चरण होयाছে না হইবে না प्रभु जत दासा सबर चरण बंदो तंते कोरि घासा ब्राह्मण तरित शक्ति तरे जन जाने एवेरा पुराने गुण गाय जे बसुने महाप्रभु गण सभापति तपवान दय लोभे मुई पापी लोहिनु शरण दना करिते मुई कत शक्ति धरे तम बोधे दशे मुई धम्भ मात्र करे तथापि मुखेर भाग्य मने रायुलाश सक्षामि मोधा में कर निज दासा सर्ववंश सिद्धि होय यम बंध छूते जगते दुर्लभ होय प्रेम धन लूटे मानेरो चिरते होया देवकी नंदना दासा एलो बेकोया जय वैष्णव ठाकुर जय वैष्णव ठाकुर वैष्णव ठाकुर जय वैष्णव ठाकुर शरणागति
Page 200.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Jivadaya Kori Sapashara Sviya Dhamo Sahayavatari Atyanta Durlabha Prema Kori Varadana Shikhaya Sharanagati Bhakatera Prana Tanyatmani Vedana Goptitvevarana Havyasya Rakshive Krishna Vishwasapalana Bhakti Anukula Matra Karera Svikara Bhakti Pratikula Bhava Varjanangikara Sharanga Sharanagati Hoi Bejahara Tara Pratana Shune Shinanda Kumara Rupa Sanatana Pare Tante Trina Kori Bhakati Vinora Pade Tupada Dhori Kadiya Kadiya Bole Amita Dhama Shikaya Sharanagati Karahe Utama Swapashara Jaya Gaurahari Swapashara Jaya Gaurahari Gauranga. You wanna sing one?
Do you know any bhajans?
I prefer if you continue singing a little longer.
Okay.
Thank you.
Gore? Nita and Gore or just Gore?
So beautiful, by the way.
Nita. Oh. Thank you. So, which one should I do?
Let's do Nitai.
Nitai?
Nitai.
Man, I'm so bad at Nitai bhajans. Do you want to do Nitai?
Thanks. Page 61. Maybe too high. Oh boy. Okay. Nita guna mahani amar. This one will do call and response. Nita guna mahani. Aniya premera banya basailo vahani. Preme banya loya nitai halo gora deshe. Dubilo bokata gana dinahina bhase. Dinahina pati tapa maranai bache. Pramadandurlapa prema sabakare jache. Abada karuna sindhu Katya muhana. Gare gale bure prema amiyara bhana. Lochan bole mora nitai jebana bhajilo. Janiya shuniya se atmagati ho huelo. Jayo Nitai, Jayo Nitai, Jayo Nitai, Jayo Nitai. And so for our guest, is this your first time at a Heart? Cool. So what we're doing is before we do anything, especially like a class, we invoke all of our teachers. Our teachers, we invoke all of our guides. We invoke auspiciousness. We invoke the Supreme Lord too. Do you know much about Radha and Krishna? Okay. Well, what we're gonna do, so you don't have to speak Bengali or Sanskrit, do you?
No.
Okay. So all these foreign sounds that we're making, they're all words. What we'll do is for the class, we'll go through what we've been singing, and so then we'll talk about what the philosophy is, because embedded within all the songs that we're singing is also the philosophy behind everything that we do. Cool. Okay, the next one we'll do page. Mm-hmm. Page 84. Mm-hmm. Paramakaruna Bahudu Vijana Nitai Gaura Chandra Sava Avatara Sava Shiromani Kevala Ananda Kahanda Bajo Bajo Bai Chaitanya Nitai Sudreda Vishvasakori Vishaya Chandiya Seda Semajiya Muke Bolo Hari Hari Deko Ore Bai Tribhuvane Nai Emona Doyalanda Hata Pashupakin Jore Pashana Vidare Shune Jara Guna Gata Samsare Majia Rahili Podia Sebade Nahilo Asha Apana Karama Bunjaya Shamana Kaya Lochana Dasa Jaya Nita Jaya Gon Jaya Nita Jaya Gon Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai go to Hari Bol Gaur Premanande. And let's see. Page 158. The one on the bottom. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Jaya Girivardhari Jaya Girivardhari Yasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari everybody on the live stream. We are starting now. Okay. So, Om Jnanatimrandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Unimanatosmi Bhaktya Vihina Aparadha Lakshay Chiptashchakamaditarangamadye Kripamaitvam Sharanam Prapana Brinde Numaste Charanadavindam Te Vaivasmi, Na Jivami Tvayam Vinaha, Iti Vigyaya Radhe Tvam Nayamam Sharanantike. You want to do the other one too? Page 278. 278. Pink sheet and 278. Kripayati Arirada Bharita Sheshabadha Kimapadavashishtam Pushti Marya Dayorme Yarivadati Chakinchid Smeraha Sodita Shrir Dvijavara Mani Panktya Mukti Shuktya Tadakim Shama Sundara Shikanda Shekara Smeraha Samurali Manohara Radhika Rasikamam Kripanidhe Swapriya Charanakin Karim Kurum Prananata Vrishabhanu Nandini Srimukabja Rasanona Shatapada Radhika Padatale Kritastitim Tvam Bhajami Rasikendra Shekara Samvidhaya Dashanetrinam Vibho Prate Vrajamahendra Nandana Astu Mohana Tavati Valabha Janma Janmani Marishwari Priyaha. If Sri Radha is merciful to me, then unlimited obstacles to my devotion will be removed. There will be nothing superior for me to obtain, because I will have received the excellence offered by the paths of both Vaidhi and Rag. And if she speaks something while smiling gently, thereby revealing the brilliance of the rows of her beautiful pearl-like teeth, what significance will the oyster of liberation have? O Shamasundara, O you whose head is adorned with the peacock feathers, whose face is graced with a laughing smile, whose murli flute enchants the mind, and who are most expert in relishing rus with Srimati Radhika. O ocean of mercy, please make me a kinkari maidservant at the feet of your beloved. You are the lord of the life of the daughter of Vrishabhanu Maharaj, and you are like a bee, always eager to taste the nectar of her lotus-like face. O Rasikendra Shekhara, foremost of those who are Rasik, who are situated at the feet of Srimati Radhika, I worship you. O son of the king of Braj, O all-pervading one, O Mohan, who enchants the minds of all, taking a piece of straw between my teeth, I pray that your supremely beloved Sri Radha be my dear worshipful goddess, birth after birth. So I offer my humble, respectful Dandavat pranams in the lotus feet of my Guru, Srila Bhaktivedanta Van Goswami Maharaj, and my Shiksha Guru, Pujaniya Srimati Shamarani Didi, to my grandfather gurus, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, Srila Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj, Srila Bhaktivigam Bharati Goswami Maharaj, and Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and to all of our Rupanuga, Guru Varga, all of our acharyas. And I appreciate both of you, because without the both of you and the camera, I wouldn't get the opportunity to speak, which really gives me the chance to like see what I know. And on that note, I know both of you are relatively new. I know Jagananda Pandit, you've been around for a long time, but I know also you only speak Creole, but you understand bits, I know. So, is there, rather than, like, I had a topic picked, like we read Srimad Bhagavatam, and I think I was planning to pick up from where we were, but I realized that might be like a bit much, like diving in. Not that it's bad to dive in, but like it might be nice if you have any questions, like, or yeah, do you have any questions in general about the philosophy, about like what we're doing? Okay. You? No, you're good. Okay, that's good, because then I'll get to talk about Ajamil. So we're in the sixth canto, and this is a really cool part. I've actually, when I first started coming to this Sangha, this group, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj's group, I think one of the first kathas I heard was about Ajamil. I remember I was at Bhakta Bandhav, and we did the Dvijapatnis. Srila Bhaktivedanta Vaikanesh Maharaj was speaking, though I also remember we spoke a bit about Ajamil. And Ajamil's, as far as I can tell, a really important story, especially for those of us in this age, because it's explaining to us the importance of, it's an example of the power and potency of the Maha Mantra, beyond the Maha Mantra of the holy name of the Lord. And so every morning we say Shikshastakam, and the second verse of Shikshastakam is, that's good. Hold on. That's totally wrong. Anyway, that translates into English as that the Lord has manifested all of his potency in his innumerable holy names. There's no restrictions on when we can remember and say the holy name of the Lord. And he's so merciful. But the second half is like less related to this history of Ajamil. So, but so in the holy name, Krishna has put all of his power, everything that he can do, into the holy name. And so the story of Ajamil really portrays that and helps us understand it. So Ajamil, let me just actually first go ahead to see what Srila Prabhupada writes as the opening for this chapter, because the chapter is called The Life History of Ajamil. So Srila Prabhupada says, throughout Srimad Bhagavatam, there are descriptions of 10 subject matters, including creation, subsequent creation of the planetary systems. Shukadev Goswami, the speaker of Srimad Bhagavatam, has already described creation, subsequent creation, and the planetary systems. So he's now going to describe Poshana, or protection by the Lord, in this sixth canto. So this first chapter relates the history of Ajamil. Ajamil was considered a greatly sinful man, but he ended up being liberated by 4 carriers of Vishnu came to rescue him from the hands of the Lord of Death's people. So the full description of how he was liberated, having been relieved of the reactions of his simple life, is given in this chapter. Sinful activities are painful both in this life and in the next. We should know for certain that the cause of all painful life is sinful action. On the path, I just want to finish the thought still about the holy name, because what he's going to come to is that, yeah. So at the time of his death, he called out the name Narayana, which is a name of Krishna. It means is the shelter of all humans. It's not his form as Narayana is like the classic idea of like God in the sky, but like a lot kind of nicer than like old guy with a beard. He's got 4 hands. He's described in one of, I think it's Sri Gandharva. There's one description that Sri Rupa Goswami gives of of Krishna, saying that her beloved Krishna is more charming and more gentle and more kind. I think just more charming. We'll say more charming than Narayan. So even though, like the classic God, the powerful, we might think of at least I tend to think of the picture of old man, big beard, lots of muscles. But Narayan, although he's also like the CEO of the universe and all universes, he's very charming and sweet and kind. And so Ajamil called out the name Narayan as he's dying, but he actually called out to his son, because his last son was named Narayan, and he had so much love for his son that as he was dying, he yelled out to his son, Narayana! And from that, he had so much love and affection with when he said it that it liberated him from his sinful activities. So now I'll go back to what Srila Prabhupada was saying. So sinful activities are painful both in this life and the next. We should know that for certain the cause of all pain is sinful action. On the path of fruit of work, one certainly commits sinful activities, and therefore, according to the considerations of karma, kanda, different types of atonement are recommended. Such methods of atonement, however, do not free one from ignorance, which is the root of sinful life. Consequently, one is prone to commit sinful activities even after atonement, which is therefore very inadequate for purification. On the path of speculative knowledge, one becomes free from sinful life by understanding things as they are. Therefore, the acquirement of speculative knowledge is also considered to be a method of atonement. Where performing fruitive activities, one can become free from the actions of sinful life through austerity, penance, celibacy, control of the mind and senses, truthfulness, and the practice of mystic yoga. By awakening knowledge, one may also neutralize sinful reactions. Neither of these methods, just doing karma and talking truthfully, being clean, or gaining, cleanliness wasn't in it, but doing karma, so doing like austerities and controlling one's mind and senses, or gaining deep knowledge, they cannot free one from the tendency to commit sinful actions. However, bhakti yoga can. The other methods, it's not feasible. And what we read in Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Bhakti Tattva Vivek is that bhakti, there's 3 types of sin. There's sin that's currently happening, there's sin that's waiting to happen, and there's sin that's in seed there's that's the sin in seed form, and then there's just the tendency to sin. So those first two, the ones that are already you're getting the reactions for, then the ones that the seeds of sin, those can be destroyed by other processes, but only bhakti gets rid of the entire tendency to sin. And the tendency to perform sinful things, that comes just from ignorance. It's from ignorance of one's relationship with Krishna. So bhakti yoga can completely get rid of the tendency for sin. The other methods can't. Therefore, the Vedic literature concludes that devotional service is more important than the methods of than doing fruitive actions and speculating and gaining speculative knowledge. Only the path of devotional service is auspicious for everyone. So fruitive activities, doing good deeds, and speculative knowledge, say a lot of deep like meditation, cannot independently liberate anyone. So you're still stuck in your mode of ignorance that causes you to sin. But devotional service, independent of the other two, is so potent that one who has fixed his mind at the lotus feet of Krishna is guaranteed not to meet the Lord of Death or his people, even in their dreams. So then, to prove this, Shukadev Goswami describes the history of Ajamil. Ajamil was a resident of a town in India. He was trained by his parents to become a perfect priest, a brahmana, by studying the Vedas and following the regulative principles. No meat eating, no gambling, no illicit sex, no intoxication. But because of his past, this youthful brahmana was somehow attracted by a prostitute. And because of her association, he became most fallen and abandoned all regulative principles. His last son, of the 10 prostitute sons, was named Narayana. And at the time of his death, he loudly called out the name Narayana in fear because he was attached to his youngest son. Thus, although he was calling out to his son, he remembered by saying it, he actually ended up remembering the original Narayan, Lord Vishnu, the four-handed version of Krishna. Although he did not chant the holy name of Narayana completely offensively, it acted nonetheless. So we read about 3 types of chanting. There's Nam Aparad, Nam Abas, and Shuddha Nam. Nam Aparad means one's chanting in an offensive manner. And you might be like, well, how am I chanting offensively? I'm just chanting. But there are 10 offenses to the holy name given in Srila Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And we're going to see if I can remember the 10 of them off the top of my head. I'm going to tell you right now, I probably can't. The first one, though, has to do with not committing offenses to the Vaishnavas. And that breaks into 6 more. And one of them is that if you're not happy every time you see a Vaishnav, you're in some way like offensive. And it's not necessarily that this isn't necessarily something that you personally are controlling. You put in effort, but the process of bhakti cleanses these things from the heart. They're called aparads. And aparads, they form in the heart what's called anarthas. Anartha means aparad means that which is not of no, anartha means it's of no value. Unartha. Artha means value, not. So it's not of value. And so when we aren't conscious, at least for me, I'm not consciously picking to do these things, but because of past impressions for a long time, the way that I see the world, my conceptions, are clouded by these things. Uh, we hear that we're in a conditioned state, and it's the same way that water wants to be liquid, but when it gets really, really cold, it becomes ice. And ice is not the natural state of water. Water is naturally liquid. But we've become in this unnatural state of ice for so long that we think this is the way to be. We don't know so well. We're addicted to being ice when we actually want to be liquid. And so these anartas, these are things stuck in our hearts that we cannot do anything about except for practicing bhakti. I say that I don't actually know if the paths of karma or gyan in any way affect our anartas. If they do, it's an extremely slow and extremely difficult process, uh, and it takes an extreme amount of effort to do anything about it. It's the best example would be like therapy. Therapy can only bring you so far in actually like changing your worldview, uh, and it takes an extreme amount of work. Any sort of inner work, like going out in the world and going like, hey, I'm doing therapy. Hey, I'm going to this retreat, going to that retreat. I'm gonna find my way. It takes an extreme amount of work to get progress. Like I don't know if you've done retreats or things like this, but they take you'll feel like really good, especially like you do like meditation retreats. They're silent for like days, and you'll feel really good, but still almost right after you'll snap right back. And what I've personally seen is even though at that time it seems like wow, that's so much progress, it's it's so minuscule compared to what bhakti does extremely quickly. Uh, and so the practice these offenses that we have committed and we are still committing, it's due to ignorance, as Srila Prabhupada was saying. And we are powerless to actually get rid of it on our own. I've said it's very simple to hand over, like, it's really easy to hand over your money. It's really easy. You just do it. It's impossible, and this, at least in the same, it's not as simple to hand over one's heart for cleaning. Because while money is a tangible thing, the heart, it requires a long time of uh, allowing one's conceptions to be shifted and changed. And actually, what we learn of how it's you hear verse number 3 in the morning. We say Trinadapi sunichena Tororapi sahishnuna Amanina manandena Kirtaniya sadahari. This is describing our process so that we can chant purely. There, one should feel more lower than a blade of grass, be more tolerant than a tree, be prideless, expect no honor for oneself, but be ready to give due respect to all others, so that one can become qualified to perpetually chant the holy name. And so that brings us back to the 3 types of the name. So there's nam aparad, which is what we do. What we do is nam aparad. It's we are chanting, but we are not chanting in a very pure state. And so as we become more purified through the practice of bhakti, which there are 9 limbs of bhakti. There's 64 limbs of bhakti. There are 9 main limbs, which is Shravana, I'm going to say it in English, hearing, chanting, remembering, offering obeisances, not offering obeisances, serving the lotus feet, worshiping, praying, serving in the mood of a friend, serving as a servant, seeing the Lord as one's best friend, and then fully surrendering one's very self over to the Lord. Those are the 9 processes of devotional service. By doing that, so by hearing, when we hear from Didi, when we hear from the books, like authentically, not the way where I'm speaking, when it's like really hearing from it, uh, when we're chanting, especially under the guidance of a pure devotee like Guru Devi, then we're practicing bhakti, and that is purifying our heart. And so over time, just by being here and following the program, over time, and I've heard Guru Devi say this as well. She has so much faith in the program, like she just follows what Prabhupada set up. That's the program, and by following that program, the heart is then cleansed. Um, there's a few other verses now coming to my mind, but there's, and then we eventually start chanting Nama Bas. So Nama Bas means it's a semblance of the pure name. And there's another song by Srila Rupa Goswami where he says in the third verse of Namashtakam how even by chanting Nama Bas, it's like the ray of light of the pure holy name, and in that it eradicates all attachment to the material world. So we're able to see a lot more clearly just the situation that we're in, the prison house that we're in. Anyway, the prison house that we're in, we're able to see it much more clearly. Doesn't mean we can really do so much. We can we're still like in it. It doesn't mean that we have vision of the actual reality as it is, but we can at least see the material and what's happening around us as it is. And so then from there is Shuddhanam. And Shuddhanam is pure name. It's Shuddhanam. Shuddha means pure. Nam means name. By chanting it that is the ultimate goal of our life. The ultimate goal of our human existence is to chant the name purely just once. Just once, and we've achieved complete and total perfection, because that name is non-different from Krishna himself. We will be literally, our soul will be literally seeing the Supreme Soul sitting in front of us at that time. You know, it's described in Madhurya Kadambini how one who is at that highest level of love of Godhead, like what they're experiencing and how deeply, it's really fantastic to hear what they go through. So that's pure name. Pure name is what is the reason why this world doesn't collapse. That fact that there are Vaishnavas here chanting the pure name is the reason why this whole world doesn't collapse. It draws Krishna in. I'm speculating a little bit now. So nobody on live stream take my word in that the world hasn't collapsed because there are people chanting pure name. If anybody's on live stream, Anandamoy, Kunj Bihari. Anyway, so Shuddhanam is the goal of our life. In fact, actually, the rest of the Shikshastakam, what we say in the morning after doing the Tulsi prayers, the rest of that is then, it's really verses 6 through 8. The last three are describing the symptoms of chanting the pure holy name and what we see, what happens in a person's body and inside. And so, Ajamil was delivered from this material existence by chanting the holy name of Narayan. And what's fantastic is he only chanted Nama Bas. So that's how powerful the holy name is. He was completely delivered just by chanting that name. And so Srila Prabhupada continues that as soon as Ajamil chanted the holy name of Narayana, the order carriers of Lord Vishnu immediately appeared on the scene. A discussion ensued between the order carriers of Lord Vishnu and those of the Lord of Death, and by hearing that discussion, Ajamil was liberated. He could then understand the bad effect of fruitive activities and could also understand how exalted is the process of devotional service. So then to follow up what I said of, he was delivered from chanting the Nam Abbas, what I heard and what Srila Prabhupada also is implying or is said is that he wasn't right then and there taken away to Vaikunta. He then spent more time, but his consciousness was so purified, and everything then became situated so that he could just then actually attain his ultimate goal, his spiritual perfection. Okay, so rather than read the verses, I'm going to just go to the next chapter 2, because when Srila Prabhupada does his introduction to each chapter, he puts everything that happens in the chapter in the summary. So, is that good with you? Okay, cool. So, chapter 2. In this chapter, the messengers from Vaikunta, so the good guys, explain to the lords of death the glories of chanting the holy name of the Lord. The servants of Vishnu said, "Now impious acts are being performed even in an assembly of devotees, for a person who is not punishable." Hold on. Now impious acts are being performed even in an assembly of devotees, for a person who is not punishable is going to be punished by the assembly of Yamaraj. The mass of people. I don't get that. The mass of people are helpless and must depend upon the government for their safety and security. But if the government takes advantage of this to harm the citizens, where will they go? We see perfectly that Ajmal should not be punished, although you're attempting to take. Oh, okay. They're talking to the messengers of death, and they're saying that it's a little bit. They're saying like, oh, you're performing. You're not doing the right thing. You're not doing the right thing. They're going. Somebody's calling out to the Lord in the time of death, and it's the duty of the government to take care of somebody who is calling out to them. I'll just continue. So, I mean, it's they're just like calling out the messengers of death, and saying like, hey, we're the government. Like in this analogy, we're the government. We're the government. It's our job to protect people and to uphold the laws. And the laws of the universe are that somebody is calling out the holy name of the Lord. They're a devotee, and it's our job to protect them from going to hell. So it was due to Ajmal's glorifying the holy name of the Supreme Lord that he was not punishable. The messengers of Vishnu explain this as follows. Simply by once chanting the holy name of Narayan, this priest has become freed from the reactions of sinful life. Indeed, he has been freed not only from the sins of this life, but from the sins of many, many thousands of other lives. He has already undergone true atonement for all his sinful activities. If one atones according to the directions of the Shastra, of the Vedic literatures, one does not actually become free from sinful reactions. But if one chants the holy name of the Lord, even a glimpse of such chanting can immediately free one from all sins. So they're saying, if a person is the Vedas, they explain everything. They explain like how to do everything, and they're like crazy long, much more than 17 volumes, like rooms of books. And so they're saying, even if you've done you can follow what they say in order to correct your karma, but they're saying even that won't actually free you from your sinful reactions. But by chanting the holy name of the Lord, it immediately, even a glimpse, so that even this namabas, this middle, the shadow of the pure holy name, it immediately frees one from all sins. Chanting the glories of the Lord's holy name awakens all good fortunes. Therefore, we say that one too. That's the first verse of Shikshastakam, talks about the things that one gains from chanting the holy name. Therefore, there is no doubt that Ajmal, being completely free from all sinful reactions, should not be punished by the Lord of Death. As they were saying this, the messengers of Vishnu released Ajmal from the ropes of the messengers of death and left for the home of Vishnu. The Brahmana Ajmal, however, offered his respectful obeisances. He bowed down to the Vishnu Dutas, the messengers of Vishnu. He could not understand how fortunate he was to have chanted the holy name of Nadayana at the end of his life. Indeed, he could realize the full significance of this good fortune. he could understand how fortunate he was to have chanted the holy name of Narayan at the end of his life. Indeed, he could realize the full significance of his good fortune. Having thoroughly understood the discussion between the lords of death and the messengers of Vishnu, he became a pure devotee of Krishna, the supreme personality of Godhead. He lamented very much for how sinful he had been and condemned himself again and again. Finally, because of his association with the messengers of Vishnu, Ajamil, his original consciousness aroused, gave up everything and went to Haridwar, a town in India at the base of the Himalayas, where he engaged in devotional service without deviation, always thinking of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. Thus the messengers of Vishnu were there, seated him on a golden throne, and took him away to Vaikunta, the heavenly planets. In summary, although the sinful Ajamil meant to call out to his son the holy name of Lord Narayan, even though chanted in the preliminary stage, Namabhas, was able to give him liberation. Therefore, one who chants the holy name of the Lord with faith and devotion is certainly exalted. He is protected even in his material conditioned life. 1107. I'll do one more chapter. Like 11:15, 11:30. Depend. Okay. Okay. Cool. Okay. So now the Lord of Death will instruct his messengers. So, Srila Prabhupada says, as related in this chapter, the Yamadutas, the messengers of the Lord of Death, approached the Lord of Death, who very exhaustively explained Bhagavad Dharma, so the eternal religion of the soul. Oh, the religious principle of devotional service. Thanks, Prabhupada. Yamaraj thus satisfied his messengers, who had been very disappointed. Oh, if you want to see something really cool about the Yamadutas, when you're in LA, go to the Bhagavad Gita Museum. It's closed right now, but we're friendly with the people who run it, and they'll let you in. Bardraj Prabhu, you've probably heard the name like a few times now. He did these dioramas, and it's so cool to like. There's one of like it's a stairway to heaven, and it's really good. It's really fantastic, and there's a person, and he's being pulled down by these Yamadutes. It's so good. It's like fantastic. I'll show you a picture, but it doesn't do justice. So, although Ajamil was calling out to his son, he chanted the holy name of the Lord, Narayan, and simply, and I keep on adding that because Guru Devi has emphasized, it's given in here that 4 messengers of Vishnu came, one for each syllable, and the last Narayana. That last is one of the messengers who came from. That's why I keep on. Most people, when they say Narayan, they just say Narayan. So I'm saying the full Narayana intentionally. And simply, by a glimpse of chanting the holy name, so this is the Lord of Death speaking to his messengers, Ajamil immediately achieved the association of Lord Vishnu's order carriers, who saved him from the attempt to arrest him. This is quite all right. It is a fact that even a chronically sinful person who chants the holy name of the Lord, although not completely without offenses, does not take another material birth. One thing, just in case we don't get to it, is what I've heard is that a very important point is that although Ajamil was extremely sinful and he wasn't chanting fully purely, so he still had some offenses in his heart, he never committed the offense of Vaishnava aparad, so committing one of these 6 offenses to a Vaishnava. So the 6 offenses to a Vaishnava involve like hitting them, condemning them, like speaking badly about them, things you wouldn't do. By chanting the holy name of the Lord, Ajamil had met 4 order carriers of Lord Vishnu. They were very beautiful and had quickly come to rescue him. Oh, he's now just going to describe them. So the Lord of Death now described them. The messengers of Vishnu are all pure devotees of the Lord, the supreme person in regard to the creation, maintenance, and annihilation of this cosmic manifestation. neither King Indra, the king of the heavens, Varuna, the king of the waters, Shiva, the like sorry, the Shiva, Brahma, who's the sub-creator of this universe, the seven rishis, nor I, the Lord of Death, can understand the transcendental activities of the Supreme Lord, who is self-sufficient and beyond the reach of the material senses. With material senses, no one can attain enlightenment about him. The Lord, the master of the illusory energy, possesses transcendental qualities for the good fortune of everyone, and his devotees are also qualified in that way. Whoa. The devotees concerned only with rescuing the fallen souls from this material world apparently take birth in different places in the material world just to save the conditioned souls. If one is somewhat interested in spiritual life, the devotees of the Lord protect him in many ways. And we see that now. So, like, when we talk about our gurus like Srila Prabhupada, like, we don't say, like, oh, he died. You know, we say, oh, he left the mortal vision of this world. Because we can see from his life's activities that he was only interested in the welfare of others. He's one of these pure devotees from the other world from the spiritual world, who appears to have taken birth here and appears to perform activities just like us, but they were only here just to save those conditioned souls and uplift those who are interested in devotional life. The Lord of Death continued, the essence of eternal religion is extremely confidential. No one but the Lord himself can deliver that confidential religious system to human society, which is another proof to show just Srila Prabhupada's proof that of his extreme spiritual like standing, because he delivered that confidential religious system to all of society and like create a massive, ginormous global movement just on the purity of his devotion. It is by the mercy of the Lord that the transcendental system of religion can be understood by his pure devotees, and specifically by the 12 Mahajans, Lord Brahma, Narad Muni, Lord Shiva, the Kumaras. This is now naming very high sages and personalities within our material creation. Kapila, Manu, Prahlad, Janak, Bhishma, Bali, Shukadev Goswami, and me. Oh, that's the 12 Mahajans. That's why. Those are, he said 12 Mahajans. Those are like the 12 great personalities within this world. And we aspire to follow in their path. There's a quote from Yudhisthira Maharaj. So, Bhagavad Gita, there's 5 brothers. One of them is Arjun. One of them is Yudhisthira. Yudhisthira is the oldest, he's the king. And when Yudhisthira, there's a whole pastime with Yudhisthira and his brothers in Vrindavan. They go to this one lake, and each one of his brothers, one by one, is like passed out and dead by the lake, and he comes, and there's this I don't know, like this little thing, like little creature there, and he says, okay, before you drink from that water, you need to answer my questions. And his brothers didn't. That's why they're all now dead. They all just went and drank the water anyway. He's like, okay, give me your questions. And he asked, who is happy? Who is happy? What is the news of the world? Who is happy? What is the correct path to follow? What is the news of the world? And I forgot the last one, but it's not so important for this one. So he said that who is happy is he who lives simply, and he who lives simply. And he said that when he asked what is the path for everyone to follow, he said the scriptures are divided, and so are the opinions of the sages. Therefore, what one must do is one must follow the footsteps of the great personalities, these Mahajans. So he's saying that if one wants to attain perfection, one needs to follow what these great personalities did. So, and the only news of the day, it's because I like this one. Guru Devi also really likes this one too. Is that we are being fried time is frying us in the ladle of the months and seasons. Oh no, time is frying us in the frying pan of illusion and allurement. We're being tossed by the ladle of the months and seasons, and the sun, the fuel, the fire of the sun, is burning away the months and days. That's the only news. Oh, I think then the last one is like, what is the greatest wonder? The greatest wonder is that every person, every day, they see somebody or some living entity dying, and yet they don't think, "Oh, I'll be next." That's the greatest wonder. So he continues that. So, in following the footsteps of the 12 great personalities, other learned scholars headed by Jaimini are almost always almost always covered by the illusory energy, and therefore are more or less attracted by the flowery language of the three Vedas, namely Rig, Yajur, and Sama, which are called Trayi. Instead of becoming pure devotees, people captivated by the flowery words of these three Vedas are interested in the Vedic ritualistic ceremonies. They cannot understand the glories of chanting the holy name of the Lord. Intelligent persons, however, take to the devotional service of the Lord. Oh, this is interesting. They're explaining why we follow the footsteps of these great personalities. So as Yudhisthira had said to that creature, I forgot what I think it's called a Rakshasa, at this lake, is that the scriptures provide many paths, and that the sages' opinions are varied. And that's what it's saying, is that most people, even such great scholars, they still fall for illusion. They fall for illusion, and they pick up on the really attractive language of the Vedas, which is what we pray in verse number 4 of Shikshastakam in the morning. We say the fourth one, na janam, na danam, na sundarim kavitam. Sundarim kavitam is referring to the beautiful language of the Vedas. We don't want those things. We then say right after that, we only want causeless devotion unto the Lord, which is exactly what Yamaraj, the Lord of Death, is right now saying, that intelligent persons take to devotional service to the Lord. And that's what the path set out by these 12 great personalities is. When they chant the holy name of the Lord without offenses, they are no longer subject. When people chant the holy name of the Lord without offenses, they are no longer subject to the rulings of the Lord of Death. If by chance these persons who have already chanted the holy name commit some sinful act, they are protected by the holy name of the Lord, because that is where their interest lies. The 4 weapons of the Lord, especially the club and the Sudarshan chakra, there's also the lotus petal and conch, always protect the devotees. One who chants, hears, or remembers the holy name of the Lord without duplicity, or who prays or offers obeisances to the Lord, becomes perfect, whereas even a learned person may be called to hell as if he is bereft of devotional service. And so I mentioned those 9 limbs of devotional service. And so what it said is one can become perfect by following even just one of these 9 limbs perfectly. Actually, in Srimad Bhagavatam, we'll get examples of specific devotees who achieve that perfection through each one of the limbs. And then the example of Ambarish Maharaj, who comes in the 9th canto, who followed all 9 limbs perfectly. So, and it says, even a learned person may be called to hell if he is bereft of devotional service, because he still is covered by ignorance. He still has that tendency and desire to commit sin within him. Even just by breathing, we are committing sin, because bacteria is coming into our nose and dying. Like, we are always taking on karma. It's just how it is. So after the Lord of Death thus described the glories of the Lord and his devotees, Shukadev Goswami, the speaker of Srimad Bhagavatam, further explained the potency of chanting the holy name and the futility of performing Vedic ritualistic ceremonies and pious activities as the form of atonement. Okay. That answer questions? Okay, cool. Do you have more questions? Smook, do you have questions? I was gonna say from my understanding, like even though those beings are all being liberated, like kind of amazingly, like how fortunate are those beings, sort of, that they just because an ant got stepped on by a pure devotee, it's now liberated from the cycle of birth and death. The thing is, they're getting like a liberation that we don't. It's not that we don't want. We don't want. That we don't aspire for. Uh, it's also like it's a very. I mean, it's a low liberation. It's like the liberate. It's they're just like going merging into nothingness. They aren't getting. They aren't necessarily getting like realization of their internal spiritual form and their deep inherent relationship with the Lord. At this would be actually I think a really good question for Guru Devi, because if they're getting liberated, then it like and what is their swarup? Because like their swarup then must be if they're getting liberated just to I think it's called Sayuja liberation, Sayuja Mukti. So they're being liberated into the great nothingness. Uh, then like does that have to be their swarup? Because if they're it's getting like a little more esoteric where we talk about like the fixed nature of the soul, the constitutional position of the soul is fixed. It's not something that can change over time. And so if one is being liberated, the implication is that their swarup is being completely fulfilled. So the question is if a being like an ant is stepped on and killed, and it's liberated, and does that mean that its natural fixed nature is in that unvariegated nothingness, right?
Well, kind of, but then I'm wondering, like, isn't the pure devotee giving complete benefit to the living entity? So, like, why would why would they send them there? If that is actually like in our tradition is worse than just getting like reborn but in a better body.
Well, it from my understanding, it depends on the swarup of the constitutional position, because from my understanding, this is a good question for Guru Devi. From my understanding, and I've heard this from my Guru Maharaj, some jivas have their constitutional position in Shantaras. So there's 5 mellows of devotion, devotion that one can taste. Shantaras, which is shanti, peace, nothingness. There's dasyaras, which means servitude. There's uh, sakyaras, friendship. There's vatsalyaras, which is parenthood. And then there's madhuryaras, which means conjugal, intimate, loving exchanges. Sakyaras, I said it's nothingness, but there is actually somethingness. Like it's all that one has is an understanding of God's greatness. It's actually now another like really interesting point because Prahlad Maharaj, you may have heard the name Prahlad. You might have like somewhat heard us say like Prahlad Maharaj. Okay, Prahlad was a small boy, 5 years old. He was a pure devotee. He's the reason why Lord Nrsimha appeared in this world. And he is technically in Shantaras because his relationship with the Lord is you are the supreme, you are the controller, you can do everything. There's nothing that you need from me. That's their relationship. Uh, from my understanding, Sayuja liberation is different from Shantaras, but I've thought it means that it's like Shantaras is in there. I don't know. Like this is another really good question for Didi because like, is there Rus? Can there be an exchange of Rus if one is in Shayuja liberation? If one, because Rus I think implies that there is like a personality there to be experiencing and tasting, who is tasting that Rus. But at the same time, then Okay, so it's like a question. This is good questions for Guru Devi, who might be listening and watching online. Guru Devi, if you are listening and watching online, I hope you don't remember that time where I was saying how speculating about the pure holy name keeping the world together, though. I think you've said that, or something like that. Anyway, but I hope you are listening to these questions about, or Basanti, you're probably listening. I hope you are listening to these questions and about what happens to beings, living entities that are killed by pure devotees, like when a pure devotee steps on an ant or breathes in bacteria. What do they obtain as their liberated state, and how does that relate to the five rasas and their swarup? More questions? Okay.
I mean, I think in that sense, like a pure devotee, like steps on an ant, like a pure devotee is with Krishna in heart and just moving through the world, through the reality. They're not aware that they stepped on an ant, or they're breathing the bacteria. It's just the grace of that bacteria and that ant that made it met its fate by a pure devotee, and that's why it is the way that it is.
Yeah.
My question is, let's say you're a devotee, but you're not like a learned devotee. You know, I get into it a little late, but you appear very sincerely and from the heart the holy name. Can a devotee of that nature be liberated in that sense of just always self-reflecting and striving to be pure each day and enchanting the holy names?
So for anybody in the live stream, what Mandali was asking is, let's say a person is sincerely chanting. They're in this life new to the practice, but they're sincerely chanting. Can they be liberated? Yeah. Yeah. Like for us, for in our practice, in our process, liberation, it means remembering one's, fully realizing one's eternal relationship with Krishna, which in our line specifically means recognizing ourselves as a maidservant of Srimati Radhika, and that's how we relate to Krishna. And it's not a mental thing. It's something that comes from the heart. That heart being cleansed, all the anartas being cleansed away, the mind becoming extremely steady, no longer attracted to the external senses, but fully living from the soul, from the heart centered space. So yeah, the first, we don't know where any person has been in their past lives. We don't know what sort of progress a person has made in their past lives. We can't see it. We are conditioned. I'll say I, and as our nature as conditioned souls, we can't see into the spiritual world. So we can't see where a person spiritually is. We can rely on, anyway, we can like read the books to then understand, and we develop what's called Gyan Chakshu, eyes of scripture. Even then, we aren't like just fully seeing. We're seeing through our material senses. So we don't know how far we are, how far a person is. We don't really know how far we are as far as progress goes. Again, we can read the books and start to understand, but really it's not like cut and dry. And so we can still, from my understanding, gaining our spiritual perfection, the thing that most matters is our sincerity and our ability to surrender unto Sri Guru. Because Sri Guru, the pure devotee, as we were hearing, they are here specifically to save us, and they are here from that world. What I read in Sri Guru and His Grace by Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Goswami Maharaj is how the pure Guru, the Acharya, even though the bona fide Guru, the bona fide Acharya, even though they appear to be in this world like with a body and like a human like us, they're completely transcendently situated. Both their feet, or he said actually they have 1 foot there, and then they stepped 1 foot here, and they're bringing the souls up there with them. And so, granted, there he actually describes there are 3 calibers of guru. This is only a pure guru who can do this. But and so they're on that level, and by our sincerity and our surrender over to guru, they can just take us. And it's really just about our sincerity and our sincere surrender over to them, and that it's really that simple. It's honestly that simple. It's just really it's difficult in the doing, but it's actually pretty simple. So that and we'll then progress naturally on the path, but there's nothing that we're actually doing. Like we can't, even though there's like a mountain to climb and a path and these things, we can't actually like just go and climb the devotional mountain. What we can do is we can just surrender unto Sri Guru, and through that, when we are reading, we can then better understand where we are, and that can better purify ourselves and better help with our conceptions and help understand. Kind of, it just ends up helping with that desire to surrender and that ability to surrender, and then the ability to understand what Sri Guru is doing and why they're doing it, and understand also what they're seeing, what their perspective is. So, and through that, our spiritual progress will naturally occur. We'll naturally go through the stages. We'll naturally, from my understanding, we'll naturally realize our own self. We'll naturally realize all these things described in the books. And in fact, to corroborate what I'm saying, so the scriptural proof for this would be there's a verse, Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Shadu Kabunoi Shad Nari Shudachitte Kodaye Udoy. So, Bhav, or love of Godhead, Prem, which is the ultimate goal of life, is naturally present in the heart of all living entities. It is not awakened by any sort of external mean. It is awakened by the mercy of the pure transcendental Guru, or even pure transcendental Vaishnav, in the heart of a person that has been purified by the ninefold practices of bhakti: hearing, chanting, remembering, padasevanam, serving the lotus feet of the Lord, worshipping, praying, serving in a mood of a servant, feeling that the Lord is one's very best friend, and then surrendering over one's complete and total being. Which means surrendering over one's body, mind, and words. By following those 9 limbs, the pure devotee is then able to fully blossom through their mercy. That the love of Godhead naturally is able to blossom in the heart. Yeah. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. And anybody online, if that doesn't make sense, you can text me. And if the live stream needs help, please text me too. Okay, Gaur Premanande. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Gaur Premanande.